If you're over 65 and still have a loving spouse by your side, sharing laughs, meals, and the little ups and downs of life, then that is something rare and beautiful, truly a blessing. But not everyone is that lucky. Many at this age have experienced deep loss. A partner is gone. Children have grown up and moved away. And then you keep hearing the same advice. You shouldn't be alone at your age. You need companionship. Being alone isn't good for you. Wouldn't it be nicer to have someone around? Sounds reasonable. But let me tell you something most people are too afraid to admit. Sometimes, after 65, living with someone can feel lonelier than living alone. A dear old friend once told me this. He lost his wife at 69. 2 years later, he started dating again. She was kind, gentle, but after a while, he couldn't sleep. He gave up his morning walks, and slowly, he stopped laughing. He said something I'll never forget. When I was alone, I felt light. But when I had to constantly please someone else, I felt like I disappeared. That moment changed how I saw things. Being single after 65 isn't a tragedy. It could be a new beginning, a doorway to peace, healing, and freedom. This video will share 7 powerful, unexpected reasons why staying single after 65 might be one of the healthiest choices you can make for your body, mind, and soul. And reason number 7? It's the one nobody talks about, but it just might change the way you see aging. If you're living alone or wondering what it would feel like, this video is for you. Hit subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss future stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what's the hardest or most beautiful part of living alone after 65? Let's begin with the first reason. Reason 1. Relationships after 65 can hurt you more than you realize. Here's something not many people admit. The older you get, the more emotionally fragile you become, especially in relationships. A simple comment can ruin your sleep. An offhand remark from someone close can haunt you for days. It's not because you're weak. It's because after a lifetime of carrying weight, your heart has grown tired, and even the smallest wave can shatter your calm. Take my sister Helen, 68. She lived alone for nearly 10 years after her husband passed. She had her little routines, morning tea, afternoon gardening, simple, peaceful. Then one day she met a widower. At first, we were happy for her, but after a few months, I noticed her eyes were puffy from lack of sleep. He wasn't unkind, but he constantly gave advice. Why do you do things so slowly? You're not organized enough. You always forget things, tiny things. But for someone who has endured deep loss, tiny things can be the last straw. One afternoon, she said to me, "Robert, being alone can feel lonely, yes, but at least I have peace." If you're feeling exhausted without knowing why, look closely at your relationship. Having someone around doesn't always mean having more joy. Don't be afraid to be alone if that's what keeps your spirit calm. And if you've been through something similar, share your story in the comments. You never know. Your words might give someone else the courage they need. Reason 2. Love after 65 might not cost you money, but it can steal your peace. Here's something people rarely say out loud. Love after 65 becomes complicated, especially when money is involved. My friend Roger is one of the most responsible people I know. After losing his wife, he lived alone with a stable pension, tidy home, and carefully managed savings. People kept telling him, "You should meet someone. It'll be nice to share your life." He eventually listened. He met a woman, charming, warm, full of energy. At first, he was thrilled. Took her out to dinners, booked little trips, bought new kitchen gear because she loved to cook. But 6 months in, Roger called me. His voice had changed. "I don't know where the money's going," he said, "and honestly, I feel more weighed down than ever." Turns out she had expensive tastes and rarely offered to split costs. When Roger brought it up, she got upset, called him cheap and unromantic. Roger wasn't upset about the money. He missed the peace, the comfort of making decisions without walking on eggshells. If you've ever secretly checked your bank balance late at night, just to ease your anxiety, maybe it's time to pause. Love shouldn't come with the cost of losing your sense of control. You've worked your whole life for your independence. Don't give it up for anyone. Have you ever faced tension between love and money in your later years? Share it in the comments. And if this made you stop and think, hit like so others can see it too. Reason 3, a new relationship can disrupt the habits you spent a lifetime building. Ever had someone say, "You've changed since you started dating her"? Walter, from my senior circle, is a creature of habit. Wakes up at 5:30, brews his coffee, reads the paper, takes his midday walk, plays chess, meditates, in bed by 9, like clockwork. To others it may seem boring, but to Walter it was freedom, stability, joy and simplicity. Then he started dating again. We were happy for him, but slowly. I noticed he looked tired. His schedule shifted. His daily walks stopped. One afternoon he sighed and said, "Ever since she moved in, everything needs to be discussed. I can't even choose when to make my coffee." It sounds small, but that's exactly the point. The small things are what give structure to your peace. A favorite chair, the remote in its usual spot, a quiet afternoon nap without someone blasting music. When you're younger, compromise feels easy. But in your later years, you need space, you need rhythm, you need air. Don't let short-term romance steal the long-built rituals that give your life meaning. If you've ever felt like you were slowly disappearing in a relationship, share your story. Someone out there might need to hear it. Reason 4. Love might bring you a partner, but also their entire life to carry. George, my longtime neighbor, met his new girlfriend at a church gathering. They hit it off quickly, and within 4 months, they were living together. At first, he was over the moon. He said, "It feels good to have someone again." But less than a year later, Ruth, his girlfriend, began struggling to move around. First, she leaned on the walls, then needed a cane, and eventually, someone to help her bathe. And that someone was George. I stopped by one afternoon and saw him making porridge, mopping the floor, calling her doctor. He didn't complain, but in his eyes I saw fatigue. He quietly told me, "I haven't read a book in months. Every night I'm just afraid she'll fall." Caring for someone is an act of love. But if you're not physically strong anymore, if you didn't plan for it, you could end up sacrificing your own health, your joy, your final years of peace. Being single isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the only way to protect the little time you have left, where your body still feels good and your mind is still sharp. What do you think? Have you ever become a caregiver unexpectedly? Share your experience in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. Reason 5. A new relationship can create distance between you and your family. Would you believe Some people lose their relationship with their children because of love in later life. My friend Frank stayed single for years after his wife passed. Then he met a woman at his book club. At first, his daughter seemed polite, but then she started pulling away. She began to question everything. Is Dad splitting his assets? Is he really planning to remarry? Is someone taking advantage of him? Frank was heartbroken. He had no plans to get married. He just wanted someone to talk to. But the tension between his daughter and his new companion grew. Eventually, Frank had to choose. He chose his family. He said to me, "I don't want to spend my final years having my own child look at me like a stranger." You see, love at this age isn't just about two people. It involves kids, inheritance, trust, things built over a lifetime. Staying single can spare you the stress, the conflict, and protect your relationships with your children and grandchildren. If your love life has ever caused friction in your family, let us know in the comments. You're not alone. Reason 6. Love after 65 might cost you the one thing you value most: freedom. I once asked my friend Walter, 74, "What do you want most now?" He answered instantly, "Freedom. Not having to check in or ask permission to go, eat, or rest." Sounds simple, but he had just lost that freedom. After retiring, he dreamed of traveling, visiting old friends, writing his memoir. Then he met a sweet woman. She didn't like traveling, hated flying, only wanted to stay home and cook. Before long, Walter started canceling plans. His schedule became hers, and slowly, he stopped recognizing himself. Their relationship wasn't bad, but needing to ask for permission to move a chair or change the TV, it made him feel trapped. After 65, you don't need someone to manage you. You need a world where you can move freely, at your pace, without guilt. If you've ever felt your freedom shrinking in a relationship, maybe it's time to ask, is this love or is it offense? Drop a comment if this resonates. Your story could inspire someone who feels stuck today. Reason 7. Don't say yes to someone just because you're afraid to be alone. Let me be honest. Because few people dare to say this out loud, not everyone over 65 is in love. Some are just afraid of being alone. My friend Harold from our book club once admitted, "I didn't feel a spark with her, but everyone else was paired up. I didn't want to be the last one alone, so they got together." 6 months later, he told me, "I've never felt lonelier than I did inside a relationship that had no real connection." And you know what? That's the worst kind of loneliness. Being with someone who doesn't see you. Don't settle just because you're afraid of empty space. Being alone isn't failure. It might be the exact space you need to rediscover yourself, to heal, to rest, to live. If you're currently in a relationship that feels hollow, ask yourself, am I with this person because I care about them or because I'm afraid to be alone? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your honesty might help someone find clarity they've been needing. Final thoughts. At this age, peace is more precious than partnership. You've spent decades giving, sacrificing, showing up for others. You don't owe the world any more performances. After 65, you don't need to rush into a relationship just to avoid the quiet. Because sometimes what you really need isn't a person, it's peace. The freedom to sleep in, to arrange your home the way you like it, to live each day without tiptoeing around someone else's moods. Being single isn't the end of love. It could be the beginning of freedom, healing, and your truest self. So if you're alone today and you feel peaceful, know this: you're not lacking. You are whole. Thank you for watching all the way through. If something in this video made you pause, reflect, or feel understood, please leave a comment below. Your story could be the light someone else needs today. And if you believe this message is worth sharing, click like, share, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell, so we can keep bringing you quiet truths that matter deeply. Growing old isn't the end. It's your chance to finally live on your own terms.